What's going on, guys, man? It's your boy Mara Rashad. This is the Mara Rashad Show. I'm just kidding. This is As I Am Candle Co, man. Today we're doing a candle chat. All right, so I'm going to make a candle and we're going to talk. So today I'm doing a 14 ounce. This is a Morocco vessel. So we're going to do this 2 wick and we're going to do a mystery scent. So I got a couple different scents that I mixed together. Some Jamaican Me Crazy, Strawberry Peach, Cherry Limeade, Pineapple Sage, Aloha Paradise Blow Pop, Laundry Day. This is a lot of little extras that I had left over. So we're going to make this candle. And then today I want to talk about mindset and then kind of the vision for going forward into 2026. All right, so let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to do, man, is we're going to measure out our wax. As always, I already got my warmer over here on. This is coconut apricot wax, by the way, from Macy's. I use coconut apricot wax. Been using that about 4 or 5 years. I've been candle making. It's 2026 now, so yeah, I think I've been doing this 5 years now. 5 years have gone fast. And so I tell people all the time I started candle making, man, it's like stress reliever and also about mental health. And I think for me, Mod Smith, or As I Am Candle Co, is a Mod Smith I am. So it's a reminder for myself to accept myself as I am, and a reminder to everybody else to accept themselves as they are, where they are. And I think an important part of that is your mindset. So it's not about where you start mentally, but it's about where you go. And so I'm talking about mindset. First off, 14 ounce vessels. So I'm going to measure out my 14 ounce wax while I'm talking. So let's do that. We're talking about mindset specifically, man. This year is a new year for everybody, man. We all, I'm grateful to, one, be able to see a new year. It's a lot of people who did not get to see this year. And so I'm always grateful. Going forward this year, I think the most important thing for me, and this might actually be my word of the year. Usually I kind of pick a word, and I don't necessarily tell people this, but usually I pick a word that's on my mind that I kind of want to focus on. And I think this year my word is going to be mindset. And I think it's so fitting because, especially with everything that's going on in life right now economically, and people struggling with jobs, I know personally because I've had that. I've had that issue, still have that issue sometimes. I ain't working now, but, I know the job market is sketchy to say the least. But I think mindset is most important because for me, I've been on this journey of, mental health and self-discovery and stuff now about, I say maybe 8 years. 8 years for sure. Could have been a little longer than that. And so I'm going through the phase, I guess you could say, of the anxiety, the depression, the meds, different things like that. And I don't usually talk about stuff like that because, it's still something that I am processing through on a daily basis. And so sometimes, I think it's good to talk about it because a lot of people go through it. But I think for me, I don't like to really talk about stuff until I've kind of figured it out. But I think for me, I've kind of gotten the hang of some of these things. And so these are things I want to talk about when it comes to mindset. So I choose this word mindset because for a specific reason. And the reason is this. I think with life being as tough as it is from time to time and the struggles that people have from time to time, I think it's important how you think is the most important. So for me, I'm the type of person that I don't usually just take what people say and use it as verbatim. I always like to try and test things, make my own theories, make my own conclusions about life, about love, about, just anything. Religion, I always try to make my own assumptions. I always try to make my own decisions based on my own personal experience. And so this is one of those times that I'm going to do that. And so with me, I've kind of figured out the mindset thing. And the reason why I've kind of come to the conclusion that mindset is important, like I said, is because life has been hard for everybody. And I think for me, I've decided mindset is going to be my focus because I've tried other things. Being a mental health person, a person that sometimes struggle with that, your thoughts can get the best of you. I'm the type of person, sometimes I'll be anxious, sometimes I overthink, I'm overwhelmed. And so when I get like that, I get really frustrated. Sometimes I get angry, And I'm not saying angry like I'm just irate, but, I have moments where you might want to break down or, you get overwhelmed with life. I think we all get overwhelmed with life, to say the least. But when it comes to that, mindset plays an important part in that because sometimes how you think is how you become. And so for me, I used to think that, oh man, because I'm frustrated, that means people are trying to tell me I'm negative. No. Or when people say that, oh man, you got to be more positive, I used to think that had to be like a toxic positivity, which means pretty much that I had to be positive all the time. But I've learned, and this is kind of going back to my roots, because I think I was always a fairly positive person. But I think this is going back to my roots because of the fact that when I'm positive, it's more saying, okay, this is not great right now, but that doesn't mean that it can't be great. And so I'm choosing mindset because when life gets tough and the economy's bad, and sometimes we struggle with relationships and life in general, sometimes we do get upset and we do get angry, and we feel like just because we're angry that means we're negative, or that we always have to be on the opposite side of the spectrum, that we always have to be positive all the time. And me being the type of person that I am, I am a positive person, but that doesn't mean that being positive all the time is the best outlet. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you have to be realistic about where you are in life. And so that's why I try to be. And so mindset is also my word for the year, because in thinking about where I am and how far I've come, I've seen that probably the biggest thing of that is how I use my mind. The sustainability of my mind is important. And so when I'm talking about sustainability of my mind, and right now what I'm doing is I clean my vessel. Just a side note, for those who haven't seen my videos before, I'm cleaning my vessel. So I wipe it down with some alcohol solution. Now I'm going to wick and stick it while we wait for my wax to melt down. My scent is already separated. Like I said, this is a mystery scent. I mixed it with a whole lot of different leftover scents, citrus scents mostly, that I have. And then we're going to stir it in here, and then we'll put it all together. But going back to the mindset thing, I'm choosing mindset because of the fact that I want to change my outlook on things. I think I've learned that having a positive outlook is important, but not toxic positivity. And like I said before, toxic positivity is more the thing where you always feel like you have to be positive. Like, oh, everything's wonderful, everything's great, when things are literally falling apart. So for me, I think I've learned, at least this is for me, this is my experience, or that I'm learning, that to be positive doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have that outlook. It's more so saying, hey, this is not great now, but that doesn't mean that it can't be great. That doesn't mean that it can't be wonderful. And I used to get frustrated because it's like people tell you gotta be positive, but it's like I am, but it's hard when life is falling all around you. It's hard when you're losing loved ones. It's hard when you can't find a job. It's hard when your mind's not right. It's hard when the life that you thought that you was gonna have is not the life that you have currently. And so that's frustrating. But I think for me, I've learned, or I've seen, that when I am listening to negative things, or I watch negative things on social media or on TV, my mood drops and I can become more negative. But also when I listen to more positive things, positive music, positive playlists, I read positive quotes, sometimes listen to motivational things, that makes me more positive, and that boosts my morale to be able to do the hard things that I need to do sometimes. And so I'm choosing mindset because, one, when you have a vision, you kind of have to be able to write the plan down. But I think life doesn't, when we make plans, we do not plan for the hard things that happen in life. And sometimes the hard things is really what's going to test if you're going to kind of stick and do what you say that you're going to do, if that makes sense what I'm saying. And so I think that we should choose a positive mindset this year. And like I said before, it's not the toxic positivity, but choosing a positive outlook. Like, you know what? Hey, this sucks right now. Hey, I'm not where I want to be, but I can create this kind of lifestyle for myself. And so for me, in choosing this, what that means to me is that all the things that I want to do, I can't confirm that they'll happen this year. I can't. But I'm going to do the best I can. Like I said with the YouTube, I got different videos that I want to make. Like I'm doing these candle chat now. I've done like acting and stuff before, so I think I might want to make like short films and things like that. But I kind of want to just play with content and see what I like and what I don't like. And so a way for me to do that is to just try different things. And another way for me to do that is work on my mindset, and is believing or telling myself, you know what, you can do those things. Or these things aren't as hard as you think they are. Or another one is just reframing and saying, you know what, if you can't do that, let's find an easier way to do that. And so I think mindset is not just positive self-talk to yourself. Mindset literally frames how you look at problems. It's how you find solutions for those problems. And I think for a lot of people who are struggling with like jobs and different things like that, it's frustrating because you can't find anything. And so I do think sometimes I'm not saying it's a mute point to tell yourself, I'm going to find something. but it's saying, you know what, maybe I need to look at this thing different. Maybe I need to change the way that I look at this job market. So for me, working the job that I'm working now, I think this is just encouragement to me. Like, okay, maybe I need to stop looking at jobs this way. Maybe I need to focus on this. Maybe I need to spend more time doing the things that I actually want to do and building that kind of base with candles and content, because that's the thing that's probably going to separate me from everybody else, not necessarily just putting in resumes and stuff like that. Does that make sense what I'm saying? So it's not looking at like, oh man, the jobs I done put in hundreds of applications, I need to go put in 500 more. And for some people, that might be it. Sometimes for them, it's like, you know what? Your mindset changed from I'm feeling defeated to like, no, I'm going to defeat this thing. And mindset is a part of that too. It's knowing when I need to say, you know what? I need to take a step back and I need to relook at this versus, no, this is what I want to do. I want to double down. This is what's going to separate the good from the great. And so mindset, I think, is going to be the biggest thing for vision and for content this year, because how I think that's how I'll become. And if I'm spending time being negative, and I think we all know people who are like extremely negative. Nobody wants to be around anybody that's extremely negative. Now, I think somebody that's realistic and optimistic, I think a balance of the both, I think that's okay. So saying that, life does suck right now, life isn't as grand as I want it to be, but, I think that's the realism and the optimism. It's knowing like, okay, life might not be what I want it to be, but I do believe that I can do this, or I'm going to fight to do that. And I think in order for you to do that, you have to have a strong mindset. So talking about mindset, and my wax is melting down now. I'm just waiting for it to melt down a little bit, and then we'll stir in our scent. Don't judge my wicks. This is a wick that I was reusing, and this is a new wick that I'll wind up trimming. So that's why it's uneven right now. But where did I kind of train my mindset? And I've talked about this on my TikTok, and if you want to go follow us, it's simply Rashad on TikTok. Is learning how to do hard things effectively. And I think that life is tough sometimes for everybody. And I think in it being tough sometimes, I often get overwhelmed by the hard things. And so this is how I built my mindset up, is you can do it two ways. You can either go straight for the hard thing, or you can build up to the hard thing. I've chose the second one. I've chose to build up to the hard thing. And sometimes in life where I do have to just do the hard thing and I got to push through, but I choose to build up to it, because that way I can kind of build my floor as I go, and I can find sustainability, which then would allow me to do the hard thing more effectively. And this is how you build up to the hard thing. So for me, content could be tough, right? And I think a lot of people, they could be scared of doing content. They could be fearful. What if people don't like it? What if people don't like this? And one thing that I do to build up is I find something that I can do that I like to do, and I start there. I don't always start with what everybody else likes. I start with what a mod likes. And then, especially with YouTube, I kind of see what works and what doesn't work. Mindset again. Sometimes I will be watching people's videos and I'm like, man, I can't do that. Or that seems hard. That seems this. That seems that. And then there's other times where I'm like, what? I can do that. I can do this. I can do that. Mindset is not just always pushing through. Sometimes it's about perspective and knowing when to pivot or knowing when to change certain things. And so the way that I do that, or the way that I have done that, is being able to say, taking a step back and saying, okay, a way that I can work my mindset, a way that I can protect my mind is not consuming too much information, because then your mind gets overloaded and it's not able to make the simple decisions. And so for me, that has allowed me to not only, I feel like, create better content, or at least better content for me, is being able to come up with ideas that's unique for me. Sometimes when we consume too many things, like I said, when you consume so much negativity, you can become negative. When you consume so much positivity, you can become positive, or wherever you're at on the spectrum. Sometimes that can overwhelm you and overwhelm your mind to the point where you can't do things. So I like to do things easily and effective for me. So I find ideas that I like, and I find ideas that, I know how this, I try to find things that are in line with my ideas. So for me, I was making candles. I seen people on YouTube make candles. I was like, okay, that's the thing. Then I was like, I see people do these long form content, and I'm like, okay, I like to talk. How can I infuse my candles and my talking? So now I'm doing the candle chat. That's what I'm doing now, is I'm doing the candle chat. And so for me, being able to take a step back, this is how I'm able to kind of cultivate these ideas that I come up with. I'm pouring my scent in. This, by the way, was, I think, 1.4 ounces. of scent, and the reason why I did 1.4 ounces, had 14 ounces of wax, which I put in there. I measured it out, 14 ounces of wax, 14 ounces for the Morocco jar, and I did 10% of that, so that's 1.4. 10 times 14 is 1.4. So this is 1.4 ounces of scent that I had mixed, and so now all I gotta do is stir that together. I'm sorry, don't have a script, so we just go, we going off top. But anyways, when talking about the mindset, these are ways that I prep myself mentally for it, as I do things that, one, are easy for me to sustain. I know a lot of people, they watching this, y'all might be interested in doing content. And one of the ways that I found sustainability for myself is I'm actually doing stuff that I want to do. I want to talk, and I like making candles. But I don't want to make candles every day, but I also don't want to talk every day. And so, I find a way to like mix it together. I made a whole bunch of candle making videos that kind of got stale. And so this is a way for me to switch it up. It's a way for me to make candles that you guys can see me make them. But then it's also a way for me to talk to you guys and get the thoughts that was in my head out. Like I first told you guys months ago when I started it, I do this YouTube thing. Obviously, we all want to monetize, and we all want to get to the point, I think, well, I ain't gonna say all of us. I think a lot of people want to get to the point where they can monetize and make money. But I also do this as an outlet for me to be able to get whatever my creative ideas are out. And that's something that I was telling you guys too. And all that's mindset too, right? Because of the fact that I'm mentally preparing things, and I'm also trying to plan out how I want to do these things mentally, so that way I can pace myself. And that's another way I deal with mindset, is I find ways that I can pace myself. I don't overload myself with content, right? I do a video on here maybe once every 2 weeks, maybe once a week. This is going to be a long form, straight, probably no edits, and that's because that's easy for me to show up and do in my busy life and the things that I have going on, if that makes sense what I'm saying. And so that's another way. Or if I'm on TikTok and I'm just doing talking head videos, that's another way I can show up. It's finding a topic that you like, finding something that you like to do, and then kind of making a video about it. I think with this, the way YouTube is right now, and how it's kind of changing to this more, kind of what YouTube used to be, this more simple format where it's not a lot of edits, it's more raw and unfiltered. I think that's going to help a lot of creators. It's a lower barrier to entry, and so it could make the competition a little more stiff, but I think it's going to help a lot of creators get into the door, which I think is going to be beneficial. Now it's going to be on them to find a way to still sustain and stay in the door. And so for me, this is how I'm getting in the door. I don't see too many people that do things like this, and so this is how I'm doing it. And so mindset is going to play a lot of factor in whatever you do this year. And the troubles that you face, the troubles that we all face, and the things that go on in life, whether it's financial, whether it's family, negative things will happen. The thing that I'm learning, especially with mindset, is how do we deal with the negative things that are happening in our life? How do we prioritize that? How do we, protect our mind? How do we protect our heart? How do we prepare ourselves for the hard things that happen? And that's mindset. And this year I choose not to be a victim. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean that bad things aren't going to happen to me, but I'm just choosing to the best of my ability to move forward in spite of. Life has been hard for me. Life has been hard for a lot of us in a lot of different ways, but I think the best way that I can deal with adversity and deal with life and the problems that come with life is by my mindset. Choosing to say, you know what? Even though this isn't ideal, I am going to find a way to win in this. What's the Denzel clip? He said, I'm from around the way. I'm leaving with something. And so I think for me, my focus is for me to leave with something. And I think another way you help with your mindset too, and I'm gonna close because I'm wrapping this up soon. Another way that you find to deal with your mindset is try not to overwhelm yourself with too many to-dos. I think for me, one of my biggest, I'm not gonna say faults, but one of my biggest struggles sometimes was trying to do too many things. And I've seen a quote and I've heard a quote before. It's like, you can do everything, you just can't do it all today. Or you can't do it all at once. So find those couple things that you want to do, and I think you'll be shocked as to how eventually all of those things weave themselves together. I like to talk, and I like to, make candles, and I like to make content. I didn't never really know how all these things was going to go together, but this is how they're coming together for me right now in front of me. For whoever sees these videos. And so, mindset, man. I think it's important to just, focus on the way you think. Try not to, social media is overwhelming you. Get off of social media, man. Take a break. Go touch grass, as people would say. Get outside, do different things. I think another thing is it's really just intake with life, with your relationships, with the things that you're more passionate about. I think spend more time doing those things and less time planning those things, if that makes sense. I have Straight to the Music, which I've also said about. That's on TikTok. We're doing a live show. And we'll be live on there tomorrow, Straight to the Music. We'll be on there probably about 7 o'clock. But even with that, not doing so much planning with it. It's more of an improv thing, We don't worry too much about, we working on the optics and different things like that, but we don't worry about that. We come and we talk about music. We talk about the things that we love to talk about. And I think that that's just what people need to do, is you need to talk about or do the things that you love to do. Don't plan so much. Don't think so much. Just kind of get into the groove, because you never know what it'll turn into. And sometimes you planning it can mess up whatever you're trying to do, because you're overthinking it too much. So this is mindset. This is what we're planning on for 2026. Mindset with candles, mindset with whatever kind of content we're creating, whatever we're trying to get into this year. And right now, I just finished my, it's a mystery set. Like I said, don't worry about my wick. They uneven, but they all right. This thing is hot, so I'm not even going to pick it up. If you want that, it'll be live on the site. Mindset 2026, YouTube algorithm, and how things are changing, and how you should look at your goals and life moving forward, or at least how I'm going to do it. Take what you want. If you like this, you can drop a comment. You can subscribe. Till the next time, peace.